You are watching the Crescendo with Ian Ira Rousso. If you like what you see, hit that subscribe button below. Maybe even tell a friend. All right, this is my talk with one of my oldest friends in the world, wrestler Nick Stapp. How are you doing? I feel
I'm
like
good.
a bad host, a bad friend.
I've been trying to fucking
Yeah, don't worry, I
keep.
bleep out the swear words, but yeah, go on.
Huh?
I bleep out the swear words.
All right, I won't. I won't cuss then. No, I've just
No.
been. I've just been trying to. I actually. So I put up a thing on, like Twitter and Instagram a few days ago just to make a little extra money. Like, basically, it was like if you want me to play a song for your like significant other or person you're stalking or your Valentine or whatever. I've made like some money so far, not a lot, but
Wow,
and
good
it's
for you.
fucking easy.
Yeah.
Like today I played what was today? I did that Lizzo song for my friend's wife.
Yep.
I did a Little Peep song. I have to do a B2K song, which is going to be kind of complicated, but I'll figure it out.
Trying to remember who B2K was. The name sounds real familiar.
What's the song's like? It's called Bump Bump Bump. I don't know. I don't like.
Okay.
I've heard it, but I'm
I was
like
thinking
learning.
of
I have to learn it.
I
So
was thinking of
Friday.
BB Mac. I don't know if you remember them.
Mm-hmm.
Cause I'm back here, baby.
Yeah, I've
Little
actually
throwback
gotten
to,
like a few people send me so again, I'm not gonna get rich off of it, but it's kind of cool that
yeah, it's something. Max Bemis from Say Anything was doing that for a while. Like if you wanted a song written about somebody, like you could pay him a couple bucks. And
yeah.
I think Chris from Less Than Jake is doing that right now.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just see like I don't know. I figure it'd be a fun thing to do for Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
Um, if you're into that sort of thing.
Right on.
Let me
I can't tell if this is a plug or
No, no,
I think
absolutely not.
okay, yeah.
I should have shaved. I look like a psychopath.
No, you look fine. I look like a psychopath.
You know what's actually really funny that I just realized? I'm doing a podcast with Ian Russo.
Ian Ira
And
Rousso, yeah.
the microphone, because of my weird setup, I'll send you a video of it. It's kind of funny. So
Okay.
I'm doing a podcast with Ian Russo, and my microphone is set up on a Vince Russo action figure.
Wow. Okay.
Russo and Russo. Look at that.
Yeah.
Dreams come true.
Yeah. Dude, it's been forever.
I know.
What are we looking at now? Like almost 2 years since we last crossed paths.
Nah, what was
Because I wasn't back in New York in all of 2020. That was the first year.
so was it like August?
Something. It might have been September.
Because I know I had it. Was the last time you were here when I did that show in Brooklyn and you showed up?
Possibly.
I think
I
that
think it
was.
was. Yeah.
I want to say that was maybe it wasn't August, maybe like June, 2019.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was
I
a long
remember
ass time ago.
that was the first time I've ever seen you wrestle, and it was the coolest I've ever seen.
That was fun.
Yeah.
Actually, that show was funny too, because like like obviously wrestling shows, much like all forms of entertainment, do have a shelf life, and you don't want the show to go 7 hours long, especially that kind of show, because it was like a family show.
Yeah.
All the matches before us went long as shit, so we had to keep like we had to condense everything we were doing to like 5 minutes, and like when we got done, we like the guy who was running the show was like, I don't care if the match was good or not, you guys won 5 minutes, thanks. It
Yeah.
was the best. It's like it was the best match on the show because you actually went short. It's like, all right, there you go. Small
Short and
victories
sweet,
sometimes.
just like improv.
Yeah, exactly. But because of wrestling, I've now learned to appreciate uh the shorter things in entertainment. Like 2 weeks ago, someone ran the show. It was 24 hours straight of wrestling, which to me is like when I was like 13, I'd be like, oh, that's cool. But like now as a wrestler, I've watched so much of it And like I still watch it. I watch it every day. But like someone had a 2-hour wrestling match on the show, and I was like,
God. Yeah.
you know, you're
How do
probably
you
watching like 5-minute shifts.
how do
Uh,
you keep it going for more than
They did it.
5 minutes?
I
Yeah,
don't. Somehow
it's
they did it. It was only supposed to be an hour, and then they went the hour, and then they're like, "All right, we're gonna go another hour," and I'm like, "That's insane, and that's
like
too long."
can your body like handle
It
something like
can. I've wrestled for an hour straight before, not like in front of a crowd, but like
Yeah.
when I was training and like when I was first training, we used to just like do an hour straight of just like do this thing, then go pair off with someone else for 5 minutes, do this thing, then go pair off with someone else for 5 minutes. So I've done it, but in front of it, I feel like a crowd would just get so bored after a while. I kind of want to watch it just to see like what the crowd's response was to everything. Like if they stayed interested. I couldn't see anyone being interested in a 2-hour wrestling match.
Yeah, same I know a couple of years ago someone in New York after Trump got elected, like he set up a 24-hour Trump marathon.
Mm,
And like at the time I was like, all right, the intentions are good, but 24 hours of comedy. Wow. Shoot me,
no,
am I right?
it's too much, Doug. Too much.
Yeah.
A little pitchy for me.
Yeah, but it was God, what a so it's so weird. Like ever since he got I don't know if it's the same with you. I feel like ever since he got banned from Twitter, like the world has become more sane. Like everybody mentally is a little like there's one less thing antagonizing everybody or instigating us to like just go crazy over.
So I will respectfully disagree
Okay,
because
that's what
I think
podcasts are
I
for.
think last time you and was that
That's what podcasts are for.
I
Disagreeing.
think last time you and I spoke on the phone, we had a lengthy discussion about the subgenres of Twitter. Like
Yeah.
there's wrestling Twitter, there's baseball Twitter, there's comedy Twitter, there's basketball Twitter, whatever, whatever. Because I'm a wrestler, I'm in wrestling Twitter. People in wrestling Twitter are insane and they will find and granted, there are a lot of people in wrestling who deserve to get dunked on because
Yeah.
they do things. But wrestling Twitter will okay, so like some guy, I forgot his name, and it's probably not worth remembering. A week or two ago, he he put out this vignette of him like just it was he was walking down a line and there were like a bunch of like female wrestlers standing against a wall and he started like saying like, oh, women wrestlers suck and blah blah blah, and like it was his way of like getting genuine reaction, but like it came off so hacky and people are still talking about it and I'm like, guys, this guy's never going to go anywhere. This
So was
guy
it
is like useless to us now.
so was it something that he was doing essentially to invoke a reaction out of the audience?
Yes, yes, but
Okay,
the
that's
problem is,
yeah, whether it's taken out of
a,
context. Yeah, go on.
nobody knows who he is to begin with, and b, like, if you got to start somewhere, that's probably not the right place to start, like, I don't know. So anyway, that was a sidetrack of a sidetrack. I feel like no matter what nowadays, because there's no such thing as like destination viewing or destination interest anymore. So people will find any reason to be upset about literally anything. Um,
Okay.
like today, for instance, so there's like a whole uproar about the Cracker Barrel logo and how it looks like guy has a whip in his hand, right? Um, so I was like, hey, so like on that note, like what happened to the Aunt Jemima thing from a few months ago where everyone was in a big uproar over
Yeah.
it and then everyone just forgot about it and they changed it yesterday and no one said a word. No one.
Oh, that's what happened. Lando Lakes butter. There used to be a
Oh
Indian Native
yeah.
American indigenous person on the cover, whatever the industry term is. And like without so much as an announcement, they took it off, and there wasn't a single. Nobody said a thing about it. Nobody like applauded them.
Well, that was
Yeah.
that was God. That was when I was like working at Stop and Shop as a teenager. That was probably like 2003, 2004. Um, the thing with that, it's not funny, but it kind of is. Uh, I heard the reason they did that is because young boys were cutting out the knees. I never did this. I swear to you, I never
Okay.
did this.
Okay.
I'm
Go
I'm
on.
going I'm going off of like complete hearsay. Uh, People would cut the knees off of the girl and put it over her like boob area, so it looked like her boobs are out. I heard that was one of the reasons they did it.
Wow.
That could be a complete urban legend that someone told me at a keg party or something like that, but that's what I heard. I don't know.
Kind of
Again,
like
that was a long time ago. It's like it's whatever now.
if you fold a $20 bill just the right way, it looks like the 9/11 attacks. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah. So like, that stuff like that, I just feel like outrage culture is such a big thing now that like Trump being gone from Twitter isn't going to make people less crazy because they'll find something else to be upset about, you know. And I'm not like I'm not like throwing the snowflake thing around because I'm kind of a lib myself, you know.
Yeah.
Like I get pissy about things, um, but it's a blanket statement for me that I just think everyone is going to find something to be upset about, even if it's something really weird. Um, uh, so this one going not to make this all about wrestling, but
Yeah.
this is a pretty big part of my life. This
That's
one wrestler, they are they do a lot of they do I feel like they do a lot of things for clout and kind of like like signal boosting and like that. If they genuinely mean it, that's fine. I'm not one to question their morals or whatever. But
yeah.
like, I just feel like usually when people are really loud about stuff like that, that means they're hiding something. Um, and in wrestling, we've learned that the hard way over the last year. Um, so some wrestler, a black wrestler in some company in Kentucky, he did a backstage vignette with some white girl, and her boyfriend came over, was like, "Oh, what are you doing? Why are you like, you're letting this guy like hit on you?" And she was like, "Oh, what's the matter? You can go around and mess around with all these girls, but I can't have a little chocolate." Okay, not great. But this one wrestler made this big, huge stink about it, like, "Oh, this is, this is like labeling people and all this stuff." And she said it, they're non-binary, like they said like, "Oh, this is for clout and all this stuff." And the guy who was called chocolate, that the black wrestler, quote tweeted, was like, he's like, "You white people need to find new to get mad about because this ain't it." And I was just like, like, I don't want to laugh, but like, you're telling people what to be upset about. And
Yeah.
if he looked perfectly fine with it, maybe in 10 years he'll come out and say, so like they held me against it. I don't think that's gonna
Yeah.
happen. But yeah, just people like just find stuff to be upset about sometimes, and it's kind of like it's disheartening because like a lot of them are people that I know, and I'm just like,
Yeah.
bro, like you gotta like choose your battles and just like live your life, you know?
Yeah, I think the world would be a much better place if everybody took a deep breath. Like, whenever they saw something that was clearly designed to invoke an emotion out of you,
Mm,
take a deep breath and then decide, is this a battle worth my time?
right. That's
But they are being rewarded with likes and retweets and clout.
I get like, yeah, I
Yeah.
understand like validation and um things like that are really important endorphin boosters, but I don't know, man. During the summer, like a lot of things are going on with wrestling and just social stuff,
Yeah.
and I was very loud about it because I wasn't happy about it. And after a while, I realized that like going to protests doesn't really you'll invoke the same reaction and the same uh what's the word, like the what's the word I'm looking for? Not validation. Uh Word. The word. What's the word I'm looking for?
Validation, reaction,
Uh
emotion.
no, like acceptance thing. whatever. Anyway, you'll get the same level of that from just sitting at home and tweeting hashtag BLM than you will for going to a protest and
Putting your ass on the line.
almost or 100% actually getting your ass beat by the cops
Yeah.
because you're supposed to be like a a de-escalator and like that, um
Yeah, I
be like,
remember years ago I went to a Black Lives Matter protest in Union Square, and there was a march into Lower Manhattan, and I was all for it. And once we got to the Brooklyn Bridge and everybody was walking on to like block traffic, I was like, and I went home.
yeah,
Yeah, I knew, like
it,
I supported him, but I didn't want to be the one to get arrested. I don't know, and I do see there's some sort of sense that I could stay at home and not assume any risk for I don't know.
yeah.
It's
Really, like the first weekend, everything was really hot and heavy here in New York. I went and we started at Barclays and we went on the Brooklyn Bridge and we got to the city. As soon as we got to the city, it was it was like a movie. It was like a
oh yeah,
movie. I was like, I've never thought I'd see anything like this in person. And obviously, like, I'm white, so I don't
yeah,
generally have to see things like that.
yeah.
Um, Unfortunately. But yeah, it's just it was insane. It was the craziest thing, like the craziest series of events I've ever seen in my life. And like, I didn't tell anyone I was going. I didn't make a big stink about it. I was just like, all right, I'm gonna go because I want to go because it's something I believe in. um and my friend and I were there, and we were kind of like, you remember, like, you lived in New York forever, like those
I,
scaffolds in front of the buildings in
yeah.
the city. We were standing on top of one of those just watching because it was crazy. Like, nothing crazy was happening at that moment. It was just the entire, like, all encompassing scene happening in front of us was insane.
Oh yeah.
uh so the cops were like forming like shoulder to shoulder, city block width, and just charging. And if you didn't move out of the way, you're like, you're getting
Yeah.
beat up, you're getting arrested. That's it. Like, there's no, like, no questions asked. um so people were running. We jumped down because a lot of the times, if you're white and you're standing in front of the line, they'll kind of like give you a pass, they'll be like, and you just be like, yo, chill the out, so we jumped down, and like right as the crowd was kind of like on the next block and the cops were still kind of charging at them. So like we jumped down, and some guy bounced off the wall and landed in front of me, and I would like, my first instinct was like, let me help him up. So like, I go to pick him up, and I look up, and there's this cop just like ready to my life up, and I'm like,
Wow.
uh and he just like moved on to someone else. I was like, oh my god, he was like literally like 2 feet, not even 2 feet away from me, just ready to like destroy my life. And I was like, oh, this is how it ends. All right, sweet. And then he just like walked away. uh and like, that was, I got home, like, it's not really my thing to be emotional about because I've had really bad experiences with cops in my life, but that's not my struggle to talk about. But I got home, I got like kind of emotional about it because I was like, that's really sad that this is what has to happen.
I think
Like,
that emotion, like if it like it's legitimately from a sincere or truthful place, and that is nothing to be ashamed of at
yeah.
all.
Um, but then, that being said, me doing all that, and then I just go on Twitter and I see people who I know for a fact ain't doing about it. They're sitting in their house tweeting hashtag BLM and we're in this together and all this. And I'm like, bro, like, no, that's not you. You didn't do any, like, I didn't do. I was just there. I was there like 4 or 5 times or whatever, and I did whatever I could, and that was it. Um, Actually, it's really funny. Someone who I asked for, they're for wrestling photographer. I asked them for promo pics. Like, they took pictures of me like months ago, and they finally just got them to me. Anyway, um, I hope they're good. I don't know. Uh, yeah, like, I just saw people getting. I'm still stuck on this word. It's annoying me. Not validation.
Not validation.
It's All right, I'll tell the story and I'll look
It's
up
not
thesaurus.com.
invoking an emotion. Now
It's
I can't move on
it's
from anything
annoying me
else.
a
Yeah,
lot, and I
why?
apologize. I know this
This is
isn't
why we've
really.
been friends for so long.
I know
Yeah.
this isn't good podcast material, but I'll try to
No,
make it
it's
into it. Damn it, it's not on here.
but emotion validation.
This
I
is
don't even remember the
annoying.
context.
Like approval.
Yeah.
It's not validation though.
Pandering.
No,
I don't know. But
I hate it. I hate this.
going back to the guy who was hosting the 24-hour Trump marathon.
Yes.
That had to be canceled because like he came out or it came out that there was a date rape allegation on him and he's essentially exiled from comedy and that's a reminder, yeah, going back to what you're saying. I don't trust people who are that loud. Like it's
No,
always
never.
there's always something to hide and
Always.
yeah, like if you could just be cool to each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This like I don't know if I'm illegally allowed to say his name. I don't know like if there's a lot I when you and I spoke, so like the speaking out movement hit wrestling real hard last
Yeah.
year. As you can probably figure out by some of the people in wrestling. Um and one of the like key suspects, key people trigger, targets, whatever. He was like, again, I don't, this is gonna sound terrible, but whatever. Uh, he would always post like the other wrestler I was telling you about before, who was like making this big stink about the black wrestler getting called like Mr. Chocolate Guy or whatever. He was literally like anytime anything like that popped off, he was the first one to say something. Always, no matter like without fail, you can set your watch to this guy is going to tweet something about this, and he's going to get all this engagement, interaction. Everyone's going to herald him, and you're the spokesperson of the black wrestling community, which he's not black at all. And then it turns out he's like kind of a piece of
Oh, all right.
gray rape, which I didn't know was a thing until
What is it called?
him. Gray rape.
What's gray rape?
Uh I don't know like the exact definition of it, but basically, so like I don't know if you necessarily have to be with the person like in a relationship. This is terrible. I'm sorry. We're going
This is
way off the rails.
informative, but I feel like I hope I don't learn something about myself. Like, holy, that's not allowed.
No, I don't think so. I don't know if you necessarily have to be with the person, but let's say you're just hooking up with a person, girl, guy, whatever.
Yeah.
And you're like, hey, like I want to, like I'm in the mood tonight. I'm feeling a little whatever, and they're like, nope, don't want to do it. Nope, stop. And you basically like gaslight them into doing it. Again, that's my understanding of what gray rape is. But yeah, like that, and there are videos of him dropping f bombs and n bombs and all this, and it's like,
Yeah, that's not good.
and so one of my best friends in wrestling, he's a black queer guy. He's like he does stuff in wrestling. He's a promoter, whatever. Great friend. Him and I. So he was like one of the first persons I had to admit that I thought this wrestler that I was just talking about was a piece of. This guy's hiding so many things. Like there's no way that this is a genuine thing that he's putting out there. And so my other friend, the guy I was just referring to, he had an argument with him, and said wrestler, when he realized that he was losing the argument, threw a Malcolm X quote at him to quantify my friend making fun of his girlfriend on Twitter like 2 or 3 years ago. And that's what I was like, my friend's name is Darnell. I was like, Darnell, he's like, he's worthless to me. He's a piece of shit. Like, that's it. And then like 2 months later, it all came out that he was a rapist and a piece of shit, and he gaslights people, and he drops f-bombs and n-bombs on cell phone camera videos. So yeah.
So you mean the other F word?
No, not yeah. The one that not the one that we'd be saying here, certainly.
Not
the bad one, the one you're not supposed to say,
not
like ever.
yeah. One
Yeah.
that yeah.
Yeah, the bad one. So yeah, stuff like that happens a lot, and it's just like, so that's That's why I get triggered when I see people like overreacting to certain things, because I'm like, look, like if you have a horse in the like again, like I know a lot of black wrestlers and they react to certain things. I'm like, that's your right. But there are others who you know, make a big scene about it. And I'm like, hey,
Yeah, those kinds of people, most of them I've unfollowed from Facebook and Instagram. I don't. My Twitter right now, like I made a new Twitter to replace the one I deleted maybe 2 years ago, and I'm just barely on it. The only thing that's on my Twitter right now is a tweet of the lead singer of Eve Six asking if he's told anybody about the time the lead singer of Third Eye Blind said he his girlfriend. Which, by the way, I can't recommend that Twitter account enough. Great follow.
I've heard so much about it. I don't know. People retweet it so much I don't have to follow it, you know.
Yeah, I swear to God, it's great publicity for them because like Eve Six is an incredibly underrated band. I don't think Max Collins gets the credit he deserves as a songwriter and a lyricist.
Have you ever heard the one podcast Stand by Your Band?
I've heard of that. You might have been the
It's
one who told me about that.
Yeah, it's these two comedians, Tom Takar and Tommy McNamara, I think.
Both names sound very
And
familiar.
they they just like so let's say I was friends with them and I'd be like, "Hey, like I want to defend Creed," which they've already done, like two or three people have already defended Creed. So it's like bands that aren't universally accepted by a lot of people and made fun of by most people, and they'll pick six songs and they'll whatever. And Eve Six was on there a few months ago and I was like, I just assumed that Eve Six was good, and like everybody knew that Eve Six was good, but apparently people make fun of them and have like these weird vendettas against them. Like, why though? Like Eve Six
I
was
I
they
wouldn't. I
had
don't
their like
think.
three or four
Yeah.
hits, and that's whatever. They're not trapped. They're not like we had
Yeah.
one good song and now we're gonna tell about all of our opinions. It's like,
Yeah.
all right, bro,
Remember
relax.
that band Saliva?
I was just talking about them to someone a few days ago. Um, I was listening to the Dracula 2000 soundtrack. I've
Wow.
never seen Dracula 2000. I don't want to see it because there's no way on earth that that movie is good enough to deserve such a good uh 2001 music soundtrack. There's just no way. It's
Yeah.
such a good it's such a good soundtrack. And the closer is Saliva Your Disease by Saliva. It's such a good song.
Okay. The only song I know of theirs, like I remember "Click Click Boom" being on
That
on K Rock all the time.
okay. So Click Click Boom.
Good song, by the way.
Once again, yes. Once again I'm gonna roundabout this to wrestling. Um, so I want to say it was October 2001 when that song first got when Saliva was starting to like get some momentum as a band. WWF used "Click Click Boom" as like the theme song to one of their pay-per-views. I can't really like keep track of like how often this actually happened, but apparently a lot of indie wrestlers would use "Click Click Boom" in the background of like their highlight videos. Um, so I was doing this thing for a little while just out of boredom, or I would like. So I don't know. So I guess I'll ask you. So let's say you turn on TV and a big sweaty wrestler is doing a promo talking to you at home. What is he saying? Most likely. What kind of verbiage is he throwing at you?
I'm gonna beat your candy ass.
Yep.
Gonna crush you like a beer can in the night. You sons of bitches.
Yeah.
'Cause,
So
as you
I
can
would
tell, I
just
watch lots of wet wrestling all the time.
it doesn't matter. That's literally what I was
Yeah, but
expecting.
yeah, go
That's
on.
fine. That's fine. That's literally what I was hoping for and expecting.
Yeah.
Um so I would film myself on so like the other thing is like indie wrestlers have this thing like we all know the very accepted method of recording yourself or other things on a phone unless it's for an Instagram story is horizontal, right? Because you could see more. It's not like you're not like looking at half of the person's face. A lot of indie wrestlers are just not good at that and they haven't quite figured out like the aesthetic of how to film themselves
I
or
never
how to
thought of
film
that.
things. Huh?
I never thought of that.
Yeah, it looks a
Yeah.
lot better.
Like a couple days ago, somebody got a video. I was at an open mic down in Long Beach, and there were a bunch of skaters there, and I got one of the skaters to do an ollie over me. Like I got two clips of it. Like two of my friends sent footage, and they were both like vertical, and
vertical.
I kind of wish it was in horizontal because it would have been it would have been easier to edit.
I'm telling you, it's great.
Yeah.
Horizontal is great. Uh, so that's like the unspoken thing in um in wrestling. Like it's gotta be horizontal, otherwise it looks like um. So a lot of indie wrestlers will like just film themselves like vertical, like, yeah man, I'm coming to town and I'm gonna whatever so and so, I'm gonna beat your butt and
Beat your kid,
kiss your
yes.
mom, whatever. So for a while, just literally out of boredom, because I was on, I mean 2019 especially, put I got a new car in late 2018, and I probably put 40,000 miles on it in 2019 alone,
Wow.
because I was going to like Indiana, Ohio, North Carolina, West Virginia, this place and that place every weekend. So just out of boredom, I would just film myself doing these dumb promos about garbage, just like, when the smoke clears and the dust settles, blah blah blah, I'm gonna show you a thing or two. Um, so uh so the one day I was doing that in someone's car, and literally like just by chance, click click boom was on in the background, and it wasn't even good, it wasn't even like what I really wanted it to be, but I just released it because I was like, there's no way that we can organically have click click boom, which is like one of the like quintessential indie wrestling songs. I say like tongue in cheek, but like one of the very quintessential wrestling songs to have in the background of a thing. So yeah, click click boom is near and dear to my heart. Just like My Sacrifice by Creed. I remember in late 2001, wrestler Triple H was coming back from a torn quad,
Oh yeah.
and WWF put out all these vignettes of him like getting his leg back in shape and everything, and they always had uh My Sacrifice by Creed in the background. And then they just kind of transitioned it to like a general, like, these guys made, like it was always like highlight videos of like guys doing crazy and like falling and getting hit by chairs and all this stuff, and it was like, when you are with me, so like songs like that really, like, they hold a special place in my heart.
Dude, people on Creed all the time.
It's
What was it? My Own Prison was the name of that album.
such a good
Dude, it
album.
really was.
Such a good
Yeah.
album.
Like
You're
like okay,
crazy.
fine. Yeah, they sort of they got polished a little bit later. I think Human Clay was the one where they like had this like weird not gimmick, but they were just like they were polished in a way. I don't know. I think My Own Prison, like that record could have easily fallen in the category of like just like 90s grunge or like a
Yeah.
subgenre of that.
Human Clay's pretty good. Like, I haven't really heard like their weird like little comeback album, or at least not a lot of it. But like Human Clay, Weathered is really good.
Yeah.
Like, they all their albums are good from like top to bottom. I don't know. I think people just, them and Nickelback fell into the category of like, we're just gonna hate these bands because they're successful and we don't understand why they're successful.
Do you ever watch the YouTube channel Punk Rock MBA and Punk Rock MBA, Bachelors
I
of
don't think so.
Bachelor Arts? I don't even know. It's basically some guy. He does all these like really in-depth videos about like, oh, this is what happened. What killed ska punk.
Yeah.
Let's talk about New York hardcore. What happened to nu metal? And he did a video on why people hate Nickelback, and he goes into like all this stuff, and he talks about how the lyrics like are very bland and borderline misogynistic,
Yeah, I guess
and
that's
that
a
like don't
point.
make sense. Like there's, I mean, like I'm trying to remember there was just I don't know, yeah. But it's stuff that like the average person, it's stuff that I didn't know. I know Nickelback for like maybe 2 or 3 songs, really.
I don't know. I just again, I think someone on a Reddit forum in like 2009, 2010 decided like we don't like Creed and Nickelback anymore, so we're just gonna drag like rake them over the coals for no reason. Um, like it's just I guess like it harkens back to a simpler time, but that was like early, just people like rallying against stuff for no reason on the internet. Like, I really like when people started hating Creed. Like Nickel, I was never a huge Nickelback fan, but I like they were successful, so I can't really
Dude,
hate on them. I was like, why
uh,
don't you guys on Corn? Like Corn actually sucked.
I
I
I
liked Corn when I was younger. They
I will
suck.
respectfully disagree. I've believe it or not, I've been rewatching a lot of like Corn music videos,
Okay.
and like they are a band that legitimately knew how to write music. They knew how to play their instruments, and all those guys. Like, dude, "Freak on a Leash" is such a fucking good song.
I hate
Still,
that song.
you real
That's
that
probably my
was
least favorite song on that Unfollow the Leader.
okay. And their next album, "Issues," is really good.
Hated
I
it.
I didn't listen to "Life Is Peachy" or their self-titled, which I hear are better than the two that.
Yeah, yeah. Life is Peachy was pretty good. The debut, the self-titled was fine. Life is Peachy was really good though. And I really, like Follow the Leader had like a lot of deep cuts on it, but like all the hits are garbage. Like, Got the Life was okay, but like
Dude,
I hated Freak on a Leash. Even when I was a kid, I was like,
that that band though. I'm not like the one thing like punk rock NBA and punk rock NBA. They actually did a video on this. Korn inspired a wave of really bands, and the ones that ended up surviving, like ended up going on further. Like they essentially stopped playing new metal.
yeah.
Like I think like arguably like Deftones is part of that wave. Linkin Park,
I never
but
got into Deftones either. Really,
dude, White
I,
Pony is such a good album.
they were they had such a weird like, especially at my high school, they had such a weird like cult following.
Yeah,
Um,
still do.
I I want to say I know or knew at least three people who have Deftones tattoos on them
Yeah, but it's
and
like
had it like 18, 19 years old. Like, this is my first tattoo. I'm gonna get Deftones tattoo. And this is
yeah,
coming from someone who has a Misfits tattoo. But yeah, I was just like, really?
yeah. I still have no tattoos.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah,
Eh.
'cause, it's one of those things. It's like I came from a Jewish upbringing. Obviously, I mean, come on, but but like yeah, in the Jewish faith, like you're not if you get a tattoo, you're not allowed to be buried in a
All right.
Jewish
Yeah.
cemetery,
Mm-hmm.
which is like I don't know. It's like that. It's like I sort of understand, even though it's like after I die, it's like what does anything matter? But
Exactly. And also, like, if you do get a
yeah,
tattoo, you can write you write like a parody song to Pet Cemetery and
yeah,
just do it on your Instagram story while you're getting like, I don't want to be buried
yeah,
in a Jewish cemetery.
yeah.
There you go.
No, but the other reason why I never got a tattoo is because I haven't experienced anything that I could see myself wanting etched to my body for the rest of my life. Like I thought about this because there was a stretch where I thought like maybe I should get a lagwagon tattoo. Do I want lagwagon tattooed to me for the rest of my life? My one go around on Earth? Do I want to be remembered as the guy who loved Let's Talk About Feelings and Hoss so much and Double Platinum? Do I really want. They're a good band. Still hold up. Still
They
holds
are.
up. Yeah.
Are they the ones that sound like I think you played them for me one time years ago. Or no, I think
Yeah.
no, not that they sounded like someone, but I heard them and I said, "Oh, you literally all of your stuff sounds like them." I think that was the gist of it.
They sound. There was a stretch where they kind of like sounded like a more cooler, less poppy version of Blink.
Okay.
But I do like both bands are like do their own thing.
Yeah.
Where I
I was
like it,
listening to
yeah,
Dude Ranch the other day. That is like
still holds
I'd say
up.
that's like a top at least 7 like favorite album of all time for me. Is Dude
Okay.
Ranch.
It,
That album like changed my life on so many levels. Like it got me it opened me up to all the stuff that I just listened to metal at the time and then it opened me
yeah,
to like all this other weird Warp Tour and now like that's most of what I listen to.
yeah, that
If I
was
have a preference, that's kind of what I usually go to, like punk stuff.
of those big three of the '90s. The like the Blink was the lesser of the three bands that got me like introduced me to punk music. But it was Offspring's Americana and Green Day's Dookie,
Yeah, I
which
get okay, so
yeah.
maybe I tell a lie.
And before that, you know who my favorite band was?
You probably oh yeah.
Yeah.
That was Nirvana like got me into music. Like
Yeah.
I would listen to whatever my mom or my dad were listening to. And like my mom and dad were like divorced pretty when I was pretty young. And so they both have like drastically different musical tastes. But like when I heard Nirvana, I was like, oh, this is me.
Yeah.
This is me. And I was like I was probably like
Alice in
8 or 9
Chains
when
is
I first
another.
heard them and I had already like weirdly started being depressed about things in life, even though I had literally zero reason to be depressed about anything. But um, I guess I
God, if I
started
could be a
liking.
teen again.
Oh, I'm talking like 8 or 9 years old when I
Oh,
like.
oh, yeah. If I could go back to then, when it's like no.
There's no reason to be
Yeah.
upset about anything ever.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. Um, but yeah, I got really heavy into Nirvana when I was a kid. Like Alice, like my dad listened to Alice in Chains. I got really into them. Um, yeah, music is like a music and wrestling have been pretty constant things in my life since I was 6 or 7 at least.
Right
Um,
on.
with baseball invading in my early 20s.
Yeah. Are I
Um,
still a Mets guy? It's a
yeah,
hard
still a
life.
Mets guy.
Yeah. Did they have like a much above average season for
Yeah, 2015 they made it to the World Series.
that?
Uh,
Dude, I remember that because I was flying back from New York and it was Dodgers Mets
yep,
for the National League Division
yep,
Series.
yep, yep, yep.
Um, I was landing. It was the deciding game. It was the final approach when it was, I believe, the Dodgers won.
Nope, Mets one.
No, it was the Mets. Okay.
They
So it was the Mets, but everybody on the plane was watching the game,
yeah.
and when that final out occurred, you knew who was coming to LA to visit and who was going home. Just like you heard cheering and sighing all at the same time. It was incredible. I
That
don't
was
know.
crazy because we
Yeah.
like pretty much I'd say most Met fans expected the Mets to lose. And then like all of a sudden Daniel Murphy became a good hitter during that postseason. But then the problem was they swept the Cubs in 4 games and then they had like a week off. And that's usually like death sentence for World Series because like whoever your hot players are at the time are gonna cool off in that whatever 3, 4, 5, 6 days, which they did. They just everyone suddenly was terrible. Um, like literally, like Daniel Murphy was pretty much a godsend to the NLDS and the championship series. And by the time the World Series came around, literally looked like he never like it was his first time playing baseball.
Okay.
Um, it was depressing. It was I remember like that the game was a game 5 when they lost the World Series. Um, and the game went on forever because the Royals just destroyed them. I think it
Yeah.
ended at like 1 o'clock in the morning or whatever. I was like blackout drunk, just like sitting at the computer drinking like one of these of Bud Light, and I was just like, I'm calling out of work tomorrow. This.
Oh
I
my
still went to
God.
work. I was miserably hungover. I got to work and everyone was like, hey Nick," and I was like,
I remember there was
"Not
one
today, bro."
game. There was one game last year during the World Series. It was Dodgers Red Sox, and it was if I remember correctly, it was the one game that the Dodgers won that series, and that game went on. I think like 19, 20 innings.
Which game was that?
This might have been like game 3 or 4 of the 2019 World Series. And it was yes, it was the only game that the Dodgers won against the Red Sox.
Oh, so that was 2018.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, I watched that at the airport. I was on a standby flight, and I got held off of 2 flights, and the only reason I did not um walk into oncoming traffic outside of JFK Airport is because there was a baseball game on, so that kept me going.
Good
Yeah, I
stuff.
remember
Yeah.
that. That was a really good game too.
Yeah.
It
And then
literally ended as I was getting on the flight that finally took me to where I needed to go. It
it
was perfect.
it's so weird because but like during the 2019 World Series when the Dodgers lost, like it was game 5, I was on stage during an open mic and the Dodgers lost and you just feel the momentum in the room shift.
Yeah,
And then
yeah.
we're on the other end of that coin a year later. I was in Echo Park, like this is during the pandemic. I was on stage in air quotes, but and the Dodgers won during my set, and like people were setting off fireworks, and yeah,
Yeah, that's pretty.
got to experience both ends of that coin. Over. So I gotta ask you, like, are there people who consider wrestling an art form? Now
Yes.
it just sounds condescending, but yeah.
Yeah, they might call back, but whatever. We'll
Yeah.
just roll with it. Yeah. So the wrestling as art thing is it's weirdly like kind of a hot take, hot button thing
Yeah.
in the wrestling community
Same thing with
because
comedy, which is why I ask.
yeah, because wrestling was presented as a real thing for so long and it did so well monetarily, pop culture wise, as presented as such when there was no like the veil was over. Not, I mean, I think it was just the way it was presented. The veil was over everyone's eyes in like a good way, kind of. I don't really hate the way modern wrestling is presented. I think it is a little cartoony sometimes. But old timers will literally say like there are people who just shit all over anything, even if it's good, even if it's like resembles what wrestling was 15, 20, 30 years ago. They'll be like, no, it's garbage and I don't want to watch it because everyone knows it's fake now. um so the people who say wrestling is art are mostly people around my age or younger,
Okay.
who, you know, they grew up with the understanding wrestling is fake and it's just like a performance more so than like this tough thing where only the strong get into it, which is fine. Like I don't hate that part of it. Um Despite the fact that a lot of those like really strong, really tough dudes who got into it were pieces of shit in real life, but like um I don't hate, obviously like I grew up on the big 6'9", people who could actually kill you with their bare hands type of guys. And nowadays a lot of the guys are around my size.
Yeah.
And I think that kind of drives a lot of the old timers, that kind of like pushes them away from it because they're just like, why am I going to watch a bunch of midgets wrestle when like 20 years ago it was all guys who were 6'5", jacked up, huge. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Um,
It's funny because like I like you say that like the old timers say that wrestling isn't an art, Whereas the old timers in comedy, they're the ones who say comedy is an art. But I think kids nowadays, I sound like I'm dating myself. I'm not even that old in the scheme of things. But I feel like a lot of people get into comedy without any sense of or desire to understand the artistry of what they're doing.
Yeah. Hold on a sec. Never mind. Oh wait, hold on. Sorry. Give me 2 seconds.
Oh, good.
Thanks. Later. All right, we're all set. Sorry about that.
Yeah, I gotta edit all that out, obviously. But
Yeah.
dude, it's cool to get the inside of get the insight of what it's like to be a wrestler. Like,
Hell yeah.
have you ever like gotten like badly hurt doing it?
I guess like the worst that's happened so far has been like concussions. Um concussion, I like dislocated my left knee in like 2017 and that still kind of flares up sometimes.
Yeah.
Um I don't know, just like maybe like during the height of quarantine, I was doing yoga every day and I was starting to actually like be able to like get into the shina whatever the final like resting pose is, where you gotta like lay your hands by your side and face your palms up. And I literally couldn't do it. Like I couldn't do it at first because like my elbows, I probably have like tendonitis or like tennis elbow or something like that. I literally couldn't do it. I couldn't lay my hands down flat or like lay my arms down flat on the floor with my hands facing up. By the end of it, right before like things, at least on the wrestling front, started to, not that they're not normal, but we were able to like go train and like do our sort of regular stuff, kind of not really. Um like literally I could like finally almost pretty much lay my hands down by my side. Yeah, no, just little bumps and bruises.
Better
Um
question. Good. Sorry, good finish. I do have a better question when you're done.
oh,
Well,
it's fine. Like I don't know. I hurt my tailbone a few weeks ago and that is probably going to be a thing for a long time. Um
so
I
are
don't
you able to like? Are you able to wrestle a bunch during the pandemic?
know.
No.
I did a little bit, but it was literally like whatever came up, which was
Yeah.
usually, oh yeah, it's an outdoor show and there's going to be 15, 50, maybe 100 people there at most.
Gotcha.
Um yeah, it's been whatever's there. There have been places where they'll just pack a bunch of people in there, uh
Yeah.
no masks, don't give a shit, which is I'm just
Have
yeah,
you
there's been
you've been healthy and all this? No COVID.
never nothing. I think
Fuck
I
yeah.
got it last January.
Okay.
I got really sick for a few days last January, but this is like when we knew like coronavirus was a thing, but we didn't know it was like here necessarily, or we didn't
Yeah.
know how serious it was.
Because
Um,
back in November, there were hosts of comedy shows and open mics in LA who've been like using disinfectant to like wipe down microphones, saying like there's something going around, but they weren't. I don't even think like the word coronavirus was necessarily in the public eye quite yet.
yeah, I don't remember that being a thing until like last late January, early
Yeah.
February. Because I remember like early February, no, not even like mid February was when. So I did a show in Canada in Montreal, I think, last early March, like the first weekend of March, I think last year, and we were all like, "Are we gonna be able to get back in the country?"
Yeah.
Because like, who the knows? Um, but that's when like it wasn't. We didn't even know what it wasn't COVID-19 yet. It was still like coronavirus. Like when everyone was like making jokes about it. Oh, like drink Corona beer and you won't have
Dude,
coronavirus or whatever.
there's this one comedian who I'm sort of friends with. Like, I haven't spoken to him in a while. I should hit him up. But he had this one joke leading up to the pandemic along the lines of like, did you hear that Yeah, with the coronavirus is going around the U.S., I didn't even know Mexicans could swim that far. It was such a bad fucking joke. But what I would give to go back in time to hear that hacky bull and not go through this. Because
Yeah.
still, there's optimism to be found, but these are still some emotionally trying days.
I so I don't know. It's a polarizing issue for me. Very selfish reasons. Obviously, I it's terrible because I know people who have, myself included, lost family members because of this
Yeah.
and whatever, lost businesses, lost their jobs, lost a lot of, a lot of pretty essential things. Um, but I don't.
Were
I've
there
also I
people? Were there people in the wrestling community who were just straight up saying like shaming people for wrestling?
Oh yeah, still.
Yeah, yeah,
That's going to be going on for a long time.
yeah, yeah,
That's literally going to be going on until everyone gets vaccinated.
yeah.
Um
It's going
they're
on in
doing a
comedy.
show, they're doing a series of shows in Tampa next month, I think. And people are just straight up like, if you go there, you're a fucking piece of shit, and I have no
Yeah,
respect for you. And it's like, there's a, and again, I re- I did a show in early September in Pittsburgh. There were like outdoor show, maybe 50, 60 fans there, like it was in someone's backyard. It was a
yeah,
huge backyard, but like 50, 60 people there at most.
yeah,
Everyone was spread out, whatever. Um and I was one of the first matches of the day. So like, what do you do when you're one of the first matches on a show? You get hammered afterwards, especially in these times. I didn't have to drive anywhere, so I was like, all right, I'm gonna drink.
yeah,
So uh there were a bunch of other like New York guys on the show who drove in for the show. And we all took pictures together, and I was the only one in the picture not wearing a mask because I was
yeah,
drunk and I just took it off. And I had the babushka thing around my neck, but I wasn't wearing it over my face.
yeah,
Because I was like, whatever, everyone else is wearing it, and I just took it off because I was talking to someone and I just took it off because I was like, it's hot. It's like late, whatever. I think it was like early September. Um, and like there were a few replies on the tweet like, "Oh, why isn't Nick wearing a mask?" Or, "Oh, it'd be nice if everyone was." And I'm just like, man, like it's a like I
dude.
posted a
Yeah,
picture of me at the gym the other day afterwards. I was in the locker room. I was the only one in there, and I took my mask off because my mask was like I couldn't even breathe because it was just sweat in it. It was gross. So I took my mask off to put on a clean mask that didn't have a bunch of sweat in it. And so I was like, oh, I look pretty hot and jacked. Let me take a picture of myself. And I posted on Twitter, and someone immediately was like, yeah, what this picture would be really nice if you were wearing a mask. And I'm like,
yeah.
bro, come on, I get it, but
Dude,
like,
the politicization of wearing a mask, I like, has hurt the fight against COVID more than it's helped.
yes, absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
and then it goes,
Um,
yeah, going back to like virtue signaling and all that.
yeah, it's crazy. Like,
Yeah, but before I lose my train of thought,
mhm.
I said I have a better question, and I don't want
Yes, you
to
did, you
lose.
did, you did,
Yes,
yeah.
yeah. I just have you ever heard anybody? And do you have do wrestlers go through wrestlers guilt?
I don't think I've hurt anyone severely.
Yeah, I
I'm trying to think. I don't think, honestly, for the first like 4 years I wrestled, 4 or 5 years I wrestled, I didn't do like any moves that would hurt anyone. So, because like you saw when I wrestled, I was wearing like the pink button down shirt. It was a CPA. I didn't do any
yeah.
moves. I didn't do moves. So it would have been impossible for me to hurt someone with anything because I didn't do anything.
I remember body
Um,
slams. Seeing those
huh?
couple body slams I saw you do
Yeah, but
in Brooklyn.
the
Yeah.
I those are easy moves to do. There is wrestler's guilt. So, like, okay, so in like late 1999, you might have heard about, actually, this wrestler Draws. He was a football player. He got into wrestling. he literally got paralyzed from the waist down at Nassau Coliseum in the middle of a match. And it was nobody's fault. It just happened. It just sucks,
Freak
and it
accident.
happened.
Yeah.
Again, it's not like the guy who was wrestling is like great, consummate pro. Just the one time he up, and that was the result. Um, and that guy like had guilt over that for years. He probably still does, but he had like major guilt over that for years. Yeah, so like that, like guys used to die in the ring back in the day. They still do sometimes. A guy died, a Mexican wrestler died in the ring like 4 or 5 years ago, probably.
That's something that like would be on my
Crazy.
conscience forever.
Yeah, and the guy
Even like
the guy he didn't even kill him. So like he like if you watch the video, which I have for some reason, I watched it once or twice, and I like got chills. Um, the guy who again he didn't do it. It had so like he put him he did a thing to set him up on the ropes, and then he was gonna run across the ring and do some really cool athletic thing into him, which he did it a million times before that. But you watch the video, and when the guy falls into the ropes, he just dead weights, and you could just tell he's not there anymore.
yeah.
That guy, like the guy who I guess was on the other side, the living side of that exchange, like he's Rey Mysterio. He's one of like the most famous wrestlers of the last 20 years, probably.
Yeah, that has to
He'd
follow you.
probably, huh?
That has to follow you, like emotionally.
Yeah, has to.
Yeah.
Even if it's not your fault, like, like just it's, I know, like it sounds super cliche, but like it's not ballet. I don't know. It
Yeah.
happens. Again, like like
I
I've had people kick me in the back of the head hard as and knock me out, and I'm just like, I mean,
oops.
it's avoidable. It's super avoidable, but
Yeah.
also like I agreed to be in here with you, so
Yeah.
I
Cuz that
don't know, did you see the video? I posted a music video a few weeks ago. The guy like punched me in the face,
I
like
yeah,
just
that I
straight
would
up
have
punched me in
remembered.
the face.
Yeah.
That was like that's one of the only times I was like, you could have not done that.
Yeah.
Because he literally just jumped up on the apron. All I like, not to peel back the curtain too
I
much, but
was
all I told him to do was like distract me, just get my attention, and then the other guy's gonna come over and me up. And he
I
just jumped up on the apron, and like the insane part is he told me afterwards, after I got done yelling at him, because I was like, "What the is wrong with you?" He's like, "Yeah, man, like I tried to punch you, but I missed and I just elbowed you." And I was like, "Why were you trying to punch me in the first place?" If we're gonna talk about like practical wrestling rules, if a guy outside of the ring who's not involved in the match strikes a guy who's involved in the match, that's a disqualification. You lose, your team, your ally, whatever, loses the match. And I brought that up to him, and then I found out later on that this guy is like kind of an asshole to. So he's like a Massachusetts-based guy,
okay.
and I've heard probably 20 stories about him just being a complete piece of shit to people I know who came up in wrestling in that area. Um,
Okay.
so on the 1 year anniversary of that happening, I posted about it on Twitter just as a joke, whatever. And another guy was like, why don't you stop being a pussy and tag him?" So I tagged him. He was like, "Man, that's like never happened before. I apologize." I was like, "Apparently it has." And he was just like completely oblivious, like played dumb on the whole thing. It was entertaining. But yeah, like yeah, that exists. Yeah, like I know guys
Yeah.
who have heard other guys who, other people who have heard other people who are still, like, still shaken up by it. There are people who have like quit the business because of stuff like that. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's a
Not
real
not
thing.
not as extreme. Somebody in an acting class, a scene partner punched me in the throat. Like we were doing a
Sucks.
scene from The Talented Mr. Ripley, and he got really into it. I had a sense of humor about it, but my teacher did not. He was like, what the are you doing?" No,
It's true
I'm
though.
paraphrasing, but it was,
It's
yeah,
true.
yeah. But
Like,
going like as far as like COVID guilt goes, like I remember back in May when still less was known about this, and we were just starting to do mics in people's apartments, and that was like one night I legitimately thought I had COVID. I got tested, and the hardest I bawled last year, and it was a very emotional year. The hardest I bawled was the thought that I might have given people that I legitimately care about this thing that we didn't know much about yet.
Yeah, that's been the hard part for me is like I'm generally very safe about everything. I wear the
Yeah.
mask. I already washed my hands a lot anyway before all this shit happened, so it's not really like an alien thing to me like it apparently was to other people. Um
Get one of these.
what is that?
It's a hook to open doors.
Oh, I thought it was a bottle opener.
It does have a bottle opener on it.
Okay,
But
so I wasn't
but
wrong.
yeah, you were not wrong. But but yeah, this thing I'm going to be using it long after the pandemic is over. It is making opening doors fun, and it seems like it's going to be a great conversation at bars. Like, and
Yeah,
I don't smoke anymore, so I need whatever,
God,
yeah,
yeah, you
or
have to have something.
an icebreaker, huh? Both figuratively and literally. How much does a polar bear
How was
weigh?
the
Am I
polar
right?
bear way? Yep. That wasn't the first time we hung out, but that was the
No,
first time we were like out together thing. And that was at Cheap Shots.
that sounds about right. God, do I
That
miss
was at
cheap
Cheap Shots,
shots?
yeah.
That was the best worst bar in New York.
Horrible. The
Yeah, dude.
worst.
And let's see, the Continental. My first band. I was in a ska band in the early 2000s, and one of the first shows I've ever played was at the Continental.
Was that the
Before,
one that it was on by St. Mark's? It had like
yes,
the 10 shots for $10 or
yeah,
whatever.
like something obscene. Like they had to have watered those down, otherwise, yeah.
I was literally, I never went in there.
And dude, what was the bar? I don't know if it's still open. The bar that was down the street from BMCC that we would always go
The
to.
Patriot. I
Yes.
only went there once. I went there one time. The girl I was with, who I think you met, Jen.
Yes, I
Uh, the girl I was with, it was her first day at school when she started going to BMCC, and I went to pick her up, and I went to the Patriot and watched the Mets play the Brewers, I think, or some like that. And I had like 5 or 6 beers, and then I went to pick her up, and then we got into an argument over something. That was the only time I went to the Patriot. I remember everyone at BMCC was like, we gotta go to the
we got to the
Patriot sometime." And
Patriot. Yeah.
I was like, it looks like a hole. I
It
like
was a hole.
I like
I
holes that are close to my house.
I also don't like one of the reasons I think at the time I'm sure it's changed like they've served underage, but
They did.
yeah,
Well,
which will
the person that we both knew at the time who told me about the Patriot was most certainly not 21. So
yeah, so it's and the other bar, which I think they were a little bit stricter about it, but the reason we went is because they had like free PBR every Tuesday afternoon, and it was literally just like a scrapyard in Williamsburg. Dude, what Duff's?
oh, Duff's was great. Yeah,
Yeah,
Duff's was great when they moved to Marcy. What was that other bar that was across the street from the Murray Street building? I liked that bar.
are you at the Charleston maybe?
No, no, by BMCC.
Oh, by the okay,
It
by the
was across the
Murray.
street from the Murray Street building. I went there like 3 or 4 times, and
I don't
I don't remember
remember.
who I don't think I ever went with you because I think I went there like maybe my first 2 semesters before you and I really started talking. That was a fun place. I remember the first time I went there, we were sitting by the ATM machine. Someone took out money, and they must have been so drunk that they like left half of the money they intended to take out in the machine. And I like I stared at it for like a good while, and I felt like I was like, I should really take that because I'm unemployed right now.
Yeah,
I was like, but I'm not going to, and I'm gonna let someone else be a piece of shit. And I did.
I don't. There's some. If the person left the bar wasted, like I get what you're saying. At what point does the money become fair game?
That was the thing. I didn't know who I didn't see who took out the money. I just turned around at some point, and there were like at least 2 or 3 20s sitting in there, and I was like,
Yeah,
I should
dude.
take those, but I'm not going to, and I don't know who took them out. And then literally
yeah.
3 minutes later, someone came over and used the ATM and probably took that money. So I was like,
Yeah.
damn. What was that?
I
I
swear to
forgot what the
God,
place was
we've
called. It was like an Irish place. It was real. I like that place though.
the only bar that I went to in that area was the Patriot.
Yeah.
I didn't even remember the name of it, dude. But I swear to God, we've reached a point of the conversation where I'm just nostalgic for all the nights we had getting wasted, like on like Bedford Avenue.
Yep. Yep.
Dude, the
You
levee.
had a rap battle with someone on Bedford and North 8th, I think, one night.
How did I do?
You did terrible.
That sounds about right. It's because it was like I vaguely remember that.
Yeah.
But it was like, did it go over as well in my head? There's no way I can't rap for
You had like a very I don't know, like a Wesley Willis kind of like charm about you. Like you're trying. That's all that counts. You're trying.
Sometimes like the commitment is all that matters.
Exactly.
But do you remember like Rosemary's Greenpoint Tavern is another one where they would just serve you Budweiser in these giant styrofoam cups. Yeah.
Like 32 ounces of beer in a styrofoam cup for like $3. They actually got rid of that. Probably like 2018. I went in there.
Oh, that's
I had a wrestling show a few blocks away from there, and I got there like insanely early, and I was like, let me grab a beer at Rosemary's. And they literally had hang from the ceiling our last styrofoam special cup or whatever it was.
Dude, that sucks.
That was a relic. Yeah. It was a relic of Williamsburg.
And then of course,
and then you go a block away. I remember like when I first started going to Williamsburg semi-regularly, like Charleston had the pizza thing.
Yeah.
And then the pizza place closed down. There was a Vietnamese place next door. And not only like the Vietnamese place like tanked horribly, but I think Charleston lost a lot of business too. Dude, so then they I don't know if Charleston
close?
Huh?
They close?
What, Charleston?
Yeah.
Oh, I have no idea. No, I'm talking like 10 years ago.
Okay.
But like there was like a Vietnamese place that opened next door. And again, like they closed very quickly, but I suspect that Charleston also lost a lot of business because a lot of people went there to get free pizza.
Yeah.
So I don't know if Charleston like owned the pizzeria next door, but they definitely like there was some sort of inner workings where like we have to have a pizza place back. This is miserable. We're like losing business.
Dude, the place I think of all those bars, the one that I miss the most is Union Pool. Like we would just go there and make fun of all the hipsters.
I only went to Union Pool like 2 or 3 times, but I did have fun there. I think the one night you, me, and the girl I was with at the time went.
The Flying Stealth we saw that in the back room.
Mighty Staff, yeah.
Mighty Staff, yes.
Yeah, that was fun. Yeah, that was a fun night. He came over. We were 3 of like 8 people who were there to see him, and he was like super appreciative that we were there because he recognized me because I was like. Without wanting to have sex with him necessarily, I was. Oh wait, did you watch Flight of the Conchords?
I did not.
Okay,
I've seen a couple episodes. Yeah,
they had like a super fan Mel. I was his Mel without necessarily explicitly wanting to have sex with him. I was at every because he lives in Dublin, Ireland, and anytime he was here, I was the only guaranteed person that was going to be in the audience.
It's nice to know when somebody who is in that position sort of gives it and like respects you, like appreciates it.
Yeah.
One of my favorite stories of that, like Justin Canigliaro from Up for Nothing, who I had on a previous episode. It didn't come up, but Frank Turner was in America, like touring by himself for Poetry of the Deed.
Oh yeah.
And he was
like he did an acoustic.
Yeah, like he was just
he did a show at a really good show at Knitting Factory that I unfortunately didn't go to.
I didn't go to that, but I think he played the basement of the Charleston,
probably
like something like that early in his endeavors in America, and like Justin walked up to him one night and was like, "I just want to let you know I'm a huge fan. I respect a lot everything that you do." And Frank was just like super surprised that this guy, like at the time, knew who he was, which now Frank Turner is huge.
He was starting to get bigger. I think after he After he toured at Flogging Molly, I feel like he blew up a little bit because
I
that was
feel
when I first saw him and I first got into his stuff. It was him and I think it was him and the Agrolites or maybe
that
the
sounds like a cool
Agrolites were the
show.
year before.
Yeah, the show that I we saw, you and me. It was him, and opening was Into It Over It.
And Andrew Jackson Jihad.
Yes,
Yep.
God,
I
AJJ.
those are like so they came back like a month and a half later. I think you and I went in September and I think I went by myself in November or vice versa. Those are like two of my favorite live shows I've ever been to just because like that was my first time seeing AJJ and I was like, what the is this is amazing.
Oh
Like
yeah,
and then like I listened to them the next day on YouTube and I was like, they're so much better live, but I don't care. This is like
yeah,
this is my new favorite band, like hands
dude.
down.
Their album that they came out with last year was really
I
really
still
good.
haven't heard it. Christmas Island burned me real bad, so I kind of like not that I stopped
Yeah.
listening to them, I just kind of stuck to the classics.
You ever listen to that Frank Turner No Effects split?
Yeah, of course. I
Yeah,
mean,
it is the coolest thing either of those two have done in maybe 10 years.
so Frank, I really liked was it Positive Songs for Negative People. I really liked that.
I got to give that
Uh
like I fell off a little bit after Tape Deck Heart.
yeah, Tape Deck Heart I liked, and then when I went through a really bad breakup, I understood it a lot more.
Okay.
A lot more. Like I was
Yeah.
like, "Oh, I get it now. I get this album a lot more now." Positive Songs for Negative People I really liked. Be More Kind was like, hmm, that's fine.
Yeah.
It's music. The one he came out with like a year and a half ago, I was like, I don't know, dog.
Yeah.
I don't like this.
Yeah.
uh
It is
yeah, I
what
don't
it
know,
is.
whatever. Everyone evolves into, whatever he is now.
Yeah.
But like I'll recommend Love Iron Song to anyone on earth and challenge them to not find at least one song that they like on there.
Going back to like Desert Island Discs, Love Iron Song is up there for me,
Yes,
like top
absolutely.
maybe top 10.
Absolutely.
The Blue Album by Weezer,
Yeah.
it's up there.
I
Dude.
like Blue Album more Pinkerton personally. By
Okay.
like a hair, but I like Pinkerton a hair more.
Yeah,
Only because
disagreeing. That's what podcasts are for. But
that's
no.
what we do. That's what we do in the biz. We disagree with
You
each other.
son of a bitch.
You cheeky
Pinkerton.
bastard.
Dude, did you see the SNL sketch where it's like the three party? It's like a Christmas party, and there's a couple who like listens to everything Green Album and after, and then the other
No.
side of the table like is a couple where it's like they're just like dude, Pinkerton, they suck after Pinkerton. Dude, like that sketch was made for me. Yeah.
uh Pinkerton is great. Green Album was okay. I really like Maladroit. Maladroit has
Yeah,
some
that was a
really
good record. I loved White Album.
I didn't I didn't care for anything after that, but
Okay.
I don't know.
And I don't know if you heard the new Weezer. Not the song is called what is it called? Wow.
Oh,
It's
and
on
then and then they did the
Van
Africa
Weezer.
cover and I was like,
Yeah.
guys, this is terrible.
The new album Van Weezer though I have high hopes for.
Okay.
Like they described it as like a more riffy blue album, and it's like, all right, they're getting back to form.
All right. Yeah, I've fallen so far off track of the things that I listened to 10 years ago. Like now, have you okay, like probably not, but like the new Taylor Swift album that she came out like 2 months ago is just it's phenomenal. It's one of the best albums I've heard in years.
Was it like 1984? It's called
Evermore.
okay.
1984 is 1989 is kind of old now.
1989. Okay.
Yeah,
The
Evermore.
George Orwell
Uh
book.
but I've been listening to that a lot. But also like I've gotten really heavy into like I guess you'd call it like SoundCloud rap, like Juice World and like Lil Uzi Vert and like that. Like, I
Okay.
don't know. I've gone like way off the deep end when it comes to like stuff that I use. Of course, like I still get into whatever stuff I used to listen to, but like especially since I've been working out a lot over the past few years, and since I've been back at the gym, like I've had more aggressive, kind of like high energy, um, workout sessions. So now I'm just getting real heavy into like Bone Thugs and Harmony and shit like that, just because like I don't know, it gives me more energy and it makes me want it more.
Yeah.
That was the most hipster thing I've said in probably 3 months. Um,
Nah, you liking Pinkerton more than Blue Album by a hair. That's pretty hipster.
all right, so we're just knocking them all out of the park right here.
Yeah.
Um,
Dude, this was this. I'm so happy that we had this. That we caught up, and I'd like to talk more down the line.
of course, I mean we had a 2-hour conversation on New Year's Day on the phone.
Yeah,
So
dude, because this is the thing. Like before I ask you, like the whole all the bullshit. Like, is there anything you'd like to plug?
anything you want
There's
to
not
plug?
a lot of friends that I have. That was such a perfect way to start the new year. I
Yeah,
woke up slightly hungover. I went to my bagel place to get a bagel with cream cheese and lox, and I shot the with you about. It wasn't the best conversation, but that's not
yeah,
on you. That's on the state of the world.
exactly. Yeah, I feel like that's what I've always liked about you is like you and I, like I don't know, we've always been like pretty honest with each other about how we feel about each other as a
Yeah,
whole, or like not even really honest. We're just like, because like obviously like you and I have both had very very weird dark times over the past whatever 12 years we've known each other.
God.
We've both been like not like, hey Ian, you're being a fucking weirdo or you're being whatever, but just like not really. I don't know. I feel like you and I aren't great at reading the room, but we're good at reading each other as far as like body language. Like, all
Oh,
right,
yeah.
Ian didn't laugh at that self-deprecating joke. Maybe I'm being a little too much tonight. You know?
There's been times when you've called me out when I've needed it.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
that like I'm not really good at that, but
yeah.
I feel like the way other people handled you a little too, because like I don't know, to me like even when you were like at I guess like your worst in front of me, whatever that was, um I'm just like whatever, Ian's being fucking weird and everyone else is like, oh my god, this fucking guy, and I'm like, guys, like
But
whatever, Ian just I you're
yeah,
you have the thing
dude,
where you like uh
I'm the kind of person where half of people I meet love me, and the other half take me way too
way too
seriously. And
seriously,
yeah,
way too seriously, like
and for
to the point
God's
where
sakes, I'm pursuing being a professional comedian.
legit, yeah.
Yeah, like I don't take myself too seriously. It feels weird to me that I even have a podcast at all.
How okay, here's the barometer of how serious you take yourself. How many Zoom stand-up shows have you done?
I've as far as booked goes, I
If it's
have
more
not.
than
Yeah,
one, you're a psychopath, and that's
I've done okay two.
Jesus
So,
Christ.
but to be like, I did it twice. I got paid both times, and I was like,
Okay,
this is not
that's
for me.
okay. You got
Like
paid.
like
That's fine.
Zoom mics, I got a little bit desperate with.
Yeah,
Yeah.
my friend who used to be in comedy told me about Zoom comedy shows, and I was just thinking about the perspective of like
Dude, it's so awful.
I would I might I'm like not to get grim. I might kill myself after like a Zoom comedy show. Like imagine like
Zoom
telling
wrestling.
that's what I'm thinking about like Zoom wrestling. Like imagine you're telling a joke to like I don't know how many people are usually in those rooms or like
Uh,
watching or whatever.
I don't remember. Like I did one from Twitch where the only thing I saw on the screen was myself. So I
Okay.
was essentially reciting a set into a camera. And it's like I'm not reading an audience right now. This is not.
That's horrible.
Yeah.
I hate that. So that's like the one bad thing about COVID wrestling is like they do like tapings where like we'll tape stuff and then it'll go up on YouTube later. And sometimes they like there'll be like wrestlers there. Sometimes they'll encourage the wrestlers to at least cheer or boo or whatever at the appropriate times. Other times they're like, no guys, we don't want anyone to know that there's people here, so don't make any noise. So like imagine like you're literally throwing yourself on the floor for no reaction at all. You're just hoping that someone on YouTube likes it.
Yeah.
Months later.
God.
So like I watch stuff now and I'm like, I would never do that in front of a crowd.
Yeah.
Or I would read into that a lot more if there were a crowd there or whatever. Like it's just
Yeah.
it's this is survival of the right now. It's just
Yeah.
like let's just not kill each other, and we've only done so good at that. So
Yeah. So is there anything you'd like to plug?
I'm on the internet at Nick Stapp OK on Twitter and Instagram.
And Twitter.
I don't know, just
You have a website? Because I thought I saw you had a merch store now.
It's on prowrestlingtees.com. My
Okay.
store on there is Nick Stapp. Stapp as in Scott Stapp, lead singer of Creed. He's my he's my fake uncle. What else? I don't know. I guess if you want to, if you really like wrestling, which I'm sure all of you do, every Monday night, Create a Pro Wrestling drops Cap TV every Monday night on the Create a Pro Wrestling YouTube channel. Usually drops at like 7 p.m. I have stuff on Independent Wrestling TV. If you sign up using the code Nick Stapp, you'll get, I think, 5 days free. So I don't know if you want to try out some wrestling stuff. Don't watch the old stuff because they say a lot of homophobic on there, but try out the new stuff and usually they don't.
I feel like we've said enough that we're gonna get canceled one day.
Probably.
Yeah, I don't. It doesn't matter to me.
I wrestled for WWE one time. If you're interested in that, go on YouTube and put in Tim Gange, last name Gange. If you want to see me wrestle in front of a few thousand people, and live out, at least a portion of my dream. I don't know what else. Oh, idiot! Every Thursday, my podcast Off the Hop Rope drops every Thursday, usually between 10 and 12. So if you like beer and wrestling or wrestling, we will pair a wrestling match with a craft beer. Sometimes not a craft beer. Usually I'll sway things and be like, hey guys, let's drink a Christmas ale, which is not a craft. It's a craft beer, I guess, technically. But yeah, even if you just like craft beer, we have one guy on the show who knows a lot about beer. We have another guy on the show who knows a lot about wrestling. We all know a lot about wrestling, but yeah, just check it out. Check it out every Thursday morning ish. Yeah, we talk about beer and wrestling, and we're fun. We're fun guys.
Right on. Where can they find that podcast?
What's that?
Where can they find that podcast?
Oh, Spotify, Apple Music. It's Apple Music right now, not iTunes. iTunes is a dead medium now. Yeah. Yeah. Spotify, Podbean. I think Podbean.
Yeah.
If you have Podcast Addict, we're on there because that links to our RSS feed. Yeah, Off the Hop Rope. It's me. It's Top Shelf Troy Nelson. It's Smart Mark Sterling, who, if you listen to the Major Wrestling Figure podcast, you will know who that is. If you collect wrestling figures, he's the producer and the third guy on there. I've said a lot, but yeah, Off Top Rope,
dude,
Nick Stapp, Nick, me. I play if you follow me on Twitter, you know everything I'm going to be doing for the day. I play music. I tweet while I'm pooping, and then it gets 1 million likes, and then I'll tweet a video of me wrestling, and it'll get like it'll get like 1 or 2 likes. So yeah, that's me.
All right on. I'm gonna beat your candy ass. Gonna crush you like a beer can in the night. You sons of bitches.
Rate and subscribe.